When I arrived at Jake's place, the last thing I expected was to spend the next few weeks wrestling with the kind of thoughts that made my chest tighten and my mouth dry. Jake, my older cousin, had offered to let me crash at his house while I looked for a new apartment in the city. It sounded innocent enough. A few weeks of hanging out, catching up, maybe grabbing beers like we used to when we were younger. Nothing about that plan suggested trouble. Nothing but Jake himself. Jake was the kind of man who didn't try to be sexy. He just was. Blue-collar, broad-shouldered, tan lines from working construction, with thick forearms and calloused hands. His fiancée, Amanda, was out of town visiting her parents for a month before the wedding, and he mentioned it casually, like it was just a scheduling note. I nodded, trying not to overthink what it might mean to be alone in a house with him for that long. "Place is yours too, man," he said, slapping my back as I stepped inside. "Just don't clog the shower like last time." That was Jake. All boyish charm and careless affection. He made it so easy to forget myself. The house smelled like cedar and soap, and it was clear Amanda's touch had tidied the place. Pillows arranged just so, scented candles on the mantel. But Jake's presence was everywhere. His boots by the door, a sweat-soaked tank top draped over a chair, a toolbox cracked open in the hallway. That first night, I lay awake on the pull-out couch, staring at the ceiling fan, thinking about how normal this was supposed to be, and how my body had other plans. I wasn't out to my family. They knew I didn't date much, but no one had asked the hard questions. Least of all Jake. I always told myself it was because I respected our bond. He was family after all. But the truth? The truth was, I'd had a crush on him since I was 15. I hated myself for it. Hated that it still lingered. Hated even more that now I'd be living with him, sleeping under the same roof, smelling his cologne on the bathroom towels. On the third night, I woke up thirsty. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the old wooden floors. I padded toward the kitchen, passing Jake's door on the way. It was half open, light from the hallway spilling in just enough to reveal him sprawled out on the bed. He was asleep, bare-chested, legs tangled in a thin sheet, one arm draped across his forehead. But it wasn't the peaceful pose that froze me. It was the fact that the sheet had slipped just low enough to expose him completely. There he was, lying there like some kind of Roman statue, unapologetically masculine, unaware or uncaring of who might see. My breath caught. I should have looked away. I didn't. I don't know how long I stood there. Seconds? A full minute? I wasn't thinking. Just feeling. Heat in my stomach, blood rushing to my ears, the sudden, terrifying awareness that something inside me had snapped. This wasn't a crush. It was hunger. Jake stirred slightly, turning his head toward me without opening his eyes. He mumbled something, the words lost in his breath. My spine went stiff. Had he seen me? Was he awake? I stepped back like a criminal caught mid-theft, my heart pounding as I rushed to the kitchen, poured a glass of water with trembling hands, and gulped it down like it could drown the guilt. Back on the couch, I didn't sleep. I replayed the image of him in my head, over and over, disgusted with myself, and yet unable to let it go. I told myself it was a mistake, one moment of weakness. But that night had already marked something permanent. A line crossed, if only in my mind. The next morning, Jake emerged from his room shirtless, yawning, scratching his stomach. "Yo," he said casually, grabbing a banana from the counter. "Sleep okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "Just got up early." He didn't seem to suspect anything. Didn't mention the door or the way I'd lingered. Maybe he hadn't seen. Or maybe he had and didn't care. Either way, I avoided looking directly at him, my eyes instead fixed on the bruises on his biceps, the rough edge of his jawline, the waistband of his boxers peeking above his gym shorts. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But I didn't. I stayed. Because deep down, some sick part of me wanted more. Later that day, he offered to help me move some stuff from my storage unit. We drove in silence, windows down, breeze brushing against our arms. At one point, He glanced at me and smirked. You were real quiet this morning. Weird dreams. My throat tightened. Something like that. He laughed, eyes back on the road. Yeah. You always were the weird one. I laughed too, but it didn't reach my eyes. As night fell again, I couldn't stop wondering. Had I imagined that smirk? That tone? Was he flirting or just teasing? Did he know what he was doing to me? All I knew was that something had shifted. The air between us had changed, thickened with possibility and danger. I told myself I'd keep my distance. Respect the boundary. But boundaries don't mean much when the person on the other side keeps pulling you closer. And Jake? Jake had always been good at pulling me in. The morning after seeing Jake like that, I couldn't shake the image. It was burned into me, etched behind my eyes no matter how much I tried to scrub it out. He walked around the house as if nothing had happened, barefoot, loose basketball shorts hanging low, cracking jokes while scrambling eggs. I couldn't tell if he had seen me. I couldn't tell if I wanted him to have seen me. He handed me a plate. Eat something. You look like you saw a ghost. I forced a smile. Didn't sleep much. He leaned against the counter, muscles flexing without effort. Too hot? Or just too many weird dreams? There it was again, his tone. That teasing lilt that made everything sound like a double meaning. I wanted to ask him. I wanted to be brave. But I wasn't. Later that afternoon, I headed to the bathroom after a workout, sweat soaking through my t-shirt. I stripped down to my boxers and stepped into the steamy shower, trying to drown the tension in hot water. I was halfway through rinsing when the door creaked open. Yo, I need my razor, Jake called out. Before I could respond, he was already inside, his voice echoing off the tile. Sorry, bro, forgot you were in here. I froze, water cascading over me. The shower curtain fluttered slightly in the breeze of the door closing. He was still there, lingering. I peeked around the curtain. He was shirtless, towel slung low on his hips, rubbing the back of his neck like he didn't know what to do with his hands. You good? I asked. Jake's eyes flicked to mine, unreadable. Then down. Then back up. I mean, we're both guys, right? No big deal. He smirked. Unless you're shy. I could feel the pulse in my neck. I'm not shy. That seemed to light something in him. A challenge. He stepped closer to the counter, too close. Our eyes met in the mirror for just a moment. His lips curved into something between a dare and an invitation. You ever wonder? He said suddenly, his voice low, almost buried beneath the hiss of the shower. I swallowed. Wonder what? What it's like, you know. Messing around. The silence hung between us like fog. I didn't trust myself to speak. Jake chuckled nervously. Just messing, man. Relax. He walked out, but the door didn't close all the way. I stood there for a long time, shivering, even under the hot water. That night we drank. A lot. Jake brought out a bottle of bourbon he said Amanda hated, but he kept for special occasions. We sat on the couch, knees touching, his leg brushing against mine now and then. My body reacted to every small contact like electricity. I wanted him. I hated that I wanted him. You ever kiss a guy? He asked suddenly, out of nowhere. I blinked. Yeah. He nodded slowly. I haven't. Not really. Not sober, anyway. He turned to me, his eyes a little glassy. I mean, I'm not gay or anything. But like, you ever feel something for someone you shouldn't? Yes, I whispered. He leaned closer. What if it's someone close? My breath hitched. Like a cousin? He added softly. I should have pushed him away. I should have laughed it off. I should have done anything other than what I did. Instead, I kissed him. His mouth was warm, a little rough, tasting of whiskey and heat. For a second, he froze, then he kissed me back. Hard. Hands clutched fabric, mouths opened, breaths caught. His fingers dug into my shoulders like he didn't know how to be gentle, like he didn't want to be. We didn't speak. There was no room for words, just sensation and the hum of everything we weren't supposed to be doing. We didn't go all the way, not that night. But we went far enough. Far enough that there was no pretending it didn't happen. When it was over, we sat in silence. Jake stared at the wall, breathing heavy, rubbing the back of his neck like he always did when he was uncomfortable. "This never happened," he said. I didn't answer. "I mean it, man. It was just the booze. A mistake." He didn't look at me when he said it. I nodded, even though it felt like my chest was cracking open. Jake stood, ran a hand through his hair, and disappeared into his room, door clicking shut behind him. I lay on the couch for hours after, listening to the quiet creaks of the house, to my own thoughts running wild. The taste of him still lingered on my lips. The weight of his body, his hands, his breath, still heavy on my skin. "A mistake," he'd said. Maybe it was. But it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like the beginning of something that would either ruin us or change us forever. After that night, everything changed, and nothing did. Jake and I went back to the same daily rhythm. Him making coffee shirtless in the morning, me pretending not to watch. Him fixing things around the house with his back muscles flexing under sweat, me pretending I wasn't hard just from looking. But underneath the surface, there was a new current. Thick, electric. Dangerous. He didn't talk about what happened. Neither did I. But silence can be an invitation too. It started again 3 days later. I was folding laundry in the living room, mind half drunk on the smell of his cologne still clinging to one of his t-shirts. Jake walked in, sweaty from his run, headphones dangling around his neck. "You missed a sock," he said. I turned, and there he was, shirt off, shorts sticking to his thighs. His eyes locked with mine. Something unspoken passed between us. "I did," I said quietly. He stepped closer. "You keep looking at me like that, man." "Like what?" "Like you want to do it again." I hesitated. "Do you?" He didn't answer with words. He grabbed the front of my shirt, pulled me toward him, and kissed me like he had nothing left to lose. This time, there was no hesitation. His hands were under my shirt, down my back, gripping like he needed me to anchor him. We stumbled backward, knocking over a lamp. I didn't care. He didn't either. We ended up in his room. His bed. Amanda's bed. That should have stopped us. It didn't. I undressed him slowly, memorizing every inch. His scars, his freckles, the lines where the sun hadn't reached. He didn't flinch. He didn't stop me. He watched me, eyes wide, chest rising and falling, his body betraying how much he wanted this. When we were done, he lay beside me, sweaty, breathless, eyes staring at the ceiling like the truth had just punched him in the gut. "I can't believe I just did that," he said. "You didn't do it alone," I replied. Jake rolled onto his side, looked at me. "This can't keep happening." "But it's going to, isn't it?" He didn't say yes. He didn't need to. From that moment we were in it. Fully. Quietly. Shamefully. Nights became our hiding place. While the world slept, we touched and whispered and explored the kind of connection we were never supposed to admit. During the day we returned to our roles. Cousins, friends, two straight guys pretending nothing was out of place. I started calling it our game. Jake never corrected me. There were close calls. One evening, Amanda FaceTimed while Jake was shirtless in bed, my shirt crumpled on the floor beside him. He answered the call with a smile, sweet lies dripping off his tongue. I stood just out of frame, watching him fake a future with a woman he clearly didn't love the way he loved touching me. After the call, he sighed and turned toward me, guilt written all over his face. "She thinks I'm still the guy she met 5 years ago," he said. "Are you?" "I don't know anymore." There was a moment then, raw, open, terrifying. I could have told him to stop, to be honest, to make a choice. Instead, I kissed his chest and said, "Don't think about her tonight." And he didn't. He thought about me. Sometimes I caught myself hoping he'd leave her. But I never asked. I was too afraid of the answer. Too afraid he'd say I was just a fantasy, something to get out of his system before the wedding. Because deep down I already knew the truth. I wasn't part of his real world. I was a secret tucked behind a locked door. But secrets like that don't stay hidden forever. It was a Sunday morning when I found the invitation. It was lying on the kitchen counter, Amanda's handwriting across the envelope, all curvy and excited. A wedding invite to her bridesmaids. The date was printed in gold. 3 weeks from now. The room spun. I picked it up, stared at the photo on the front. Jake and Amanda smiling, arms around each other, picture-perfect love. I felt sick. Like I was intruding on someone else's life. And I was. That was the worst part. I was the intruder. Jake walked in, fresh from a shower, towel around his waist. "You saw it," he said. I didn't answer. He looked at me, jaw tight. "You knew this was coming." "I didn't want it to," I said, voice shaking. He crossed the room, close now. "This doesn't change anything." "It changes everything," I shot back. "You're getting married, Jake. To her. While you're sleeping with me." "I don't love her like that," he said, almost a whisper. "Then don't marry her." His silence told me everything. This was where the fantasy started to crack. The weight of what we were doing settled heavy in the air. Jake wasn't just cheating on Amanda. He was cheating on himself. And I was letting him. He reached for me like he always did when he didn't have the right words. But this time I stepped back. "I can't be your secret anymore," I said. His eyes widened. "You're leaving?" "I don't know," I whispered. "But I can't keep pretending this is enough." Jake looked down, then nodded, once hard like it hurt. And maybe it did. The next few days passed in silence. No touches. No stolen looks. Just space, sharp and cold. But we weren't done. Not yet. The house felt different now. Quieter. Not peaceful, just empty. Jake and I moved around each other like strangers, each interaction clipped and careful, like a dance choreographed to avoid eye contact. But even without the touches, the kisses, the nights tangled in sweat and breathless hunger, he was still everywhere. In the smell of his skin on the pillow I couldn't bring myself to wash. In the silence of the walls that had heard too much. It had been 4 days since I told him I couldn't be his secret anymore. He hadn't touched me since. I spent the morning packing my things. My lease had finally been approved. Just a small one-bedroom across town, nothing special. But it was mine. A place where I didn't have to share air with a man engaged to someone else. A place where I didn't have to feel like an afterthought. Jake came home while I was stuffing the last of my clothes into a duffel. He stood in the doorway, watching me, hands clenched into fists at his sides. "You leaving?" I didn't look up. "Lease started today." He stepped further into the room. "You weren't going to say goodbye?" I zipped the bag. "Didn't think you'd want me to." "Don't do that," he said. "Don't act like this meant nothing." I looked at him then, really looked. He was wearing the flannel I'd stolen once just to smell, the one Amanda had probably picked out. His hair was messy, lips parted like he couldn't decide what came next. "Then why are you marrying her?" I asked, my voice barely steady. He didn't answer right away. "Because it's what I'm supposed to do." "Not good enough." Jake exhaled sharply and rubbed his face like he wanted to peel off the skin. "You don't get it. She's safe. She's a life I understand. This thing with you, it scares the hell out of me." I crossed the room, closing the space between us, my chest brushing his. "I scare you because I make you feel something real." His eyes flared. "You think I don't know that? Then do something about it." He reached for me, hand cupping my jaw like he was about to kiss me. I almost let him. But I pulled away. "I can't keep doing this dance, Jake." "I won't." He swallowed hard. "If I told you I wanted more, would you stay? Would you leave her?" That was the question. The only one that mattered. His silence was the answer. I walked past him, duffel in hand. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't want the drama. I just wanted out. 2 weeks passed. I settled into the new apartment. No texts from Jake. No calls. Just echoes of what we were. Then, one night, I got a message. "Can we talk?" I stared at the screen, heart thudding in my chest. Sure. 10 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. Jake looked rough, eyes tired, jaw shadowed with stubble, his usually crisp demeanor unraveled. I called it off, he said. My stomach flipped. The wedding. He nodded. Told Amanda the truth. Well, not all of it. Just that I couldn't go through with it. And the real truth? He looked at me then, like a man cracking open. You were right. You made me feel something I didn't know I was allowed to feel. And it scared me. Still does. I stepped aside, letting him in. He didn't move immediately. Just looked at me like he wasn't sure if I'd changed my mind. I'm not asking you to fix me, he said quietly. I'm just asking if I still matter. I walked toward him, slowly, deliberately. You always mattered, Jake. That was never the problem. He reached out, brushed his fingers against mine. I want to try. For real. No more hiding. My heart thudded so loud I could hear it. I don't want to be your secret, I said again, softer now. He leaned in, pressed his forehead to mine. You're not. We kissed, slow this time. Not urgent or drunk or desperate. Just real. Honest. Like maybe, finally, we were choosing each other with both eyes open. When we pulled apart, I looked into his face and saw something new. Hope. Not the reckless kind that burns too bright and dies. The slow, aching kind that builds into something solid. Something worth holding onto. We weren't perfect. We had miles to go. But this time, we were walking in the same direction. Together.